Open a Roman field manual and you find mystery hacks. You find a system of Roman agriculture built on soil biology, organic inputs, and rotation that modern science keeps validating. In plain terms, they fed the soil, broke pest cycles with time and diversity, and matched water and labor to each landscape, instead of forcing one recipe everywhere. If you farm without synthetic pesticides or bagged fertilizer today, much of your playbook echoes what Roman agronomists taught and what Archaeobotany now confirms. Start with fertility. Compost and manure were pillars, not afterthoughts. Farm managers were told to keep a dedicated compost heap, clearing out stalls and pens and mixing dung with straw, ashes, swappings, and other organic waste to rot down before spreading it. Modern compost science agrees on the mechanics, blending carbon-rich residues with nitrogen-rich manures, keeping moisture and aeration in a good range, and returning a stable humus that buffers nutrients and improves tilth. The Roman texts separate manures by quality, including bird droppings and even human waste, because nutrient densities differ and some materials release nitrogen faster than others. A point modern plant nutrition also emphasizes next: green manures and cover crops. Roman writers singled out legumes like lupin and beans for soil improvement, instructing farmers to sow, then turn them under before seed. Set a classical description of green manuring. Contemporary trials and reviews show why that worked. Legume cover crops fix nitrogen, add biomass, improve soil structure, and can lift yields of the following crop without synthetic N. When you hear ancient farming without chemicals, this is part of the answer. Use living plants to feed the next crop. Rotation and fallow were the time dimension of soil care. Roman calendars lay out conservative rotations where cereals share acreage with pulses and where portions rest as fallow. The goal is to spread risk, cut disease carryover, and rebuild fertility. Modern agronomy formalizes the same logic. Rotate families to reset pathogen and weed pressure. Intersperse legumes to supply nitrogen. Use fallow strategically in dry lands to store moisture. Archaeology now puts numbers on these practices. Carbon and nitrogen isotope analyses of charred grains, weeds, and animal bones from Roman villas show enriched nitrogen signatures consistent with regular manuring across fields, not just gardens, which tracks with what the manuals recommend. In other words, the textbook wasn't just rhetoric. Farmers actually spread dung and compost at scale, and the soils and crops, remember, mineral amendments mattered too. Writers discuss Marl's calcareous soils used to sweeten and loosen heavy grounders, part of the fertility toolkit. A strategy that modern soil science recognizes for pH correction and improving structure on acid or tight clays. The principle is the same today. Organic inputs built biology and structure. Alkaline amendments correct chemistry where needed. Water and moisture management were tuned to place. Irrigated meadows were watered at set times. Vines and orchards were trained and spaced for airflow and light. Ground cover decisions balanced moisture conservation with weed control. Modern sustainable agriculture frames the same trade-offs: time irrigation to crop stage and soil texture. Use canopy and mulch to moderate extremes. Avoid practices that compact or seal the surface. Tooling and labor followed biology. Threshing might use cattle or specialized sleds. Winnowing used wind. Tillage aimed to prepare seedbeds without pulverizing soil into dust. The point isn't nostalgia, it's that they worked with the physical properties of grain, chaff, and air, rather than brute forcing every step, which often preserves soil structure and saves energy. What about pest pressure without modern chemicals? The Roman answer leans on rotation, sanitation, timing, and habitat. Rotate cereals and legumes to break host continuity. Compost or remove infected residues. Time sowing to dodge peak pest windows. And manage hedges, trellises, and mixed plantings to stabilize microclimate and beneficial fauna. Today we'd call that integrated pest management. The mechanics disrupt life cycles and favor natural enemies are the same even if the vocabulary changed. Vineyards show how design and biology integrate, training vines on trellises or living trees, spacing rows for wind and sun, and using judicious ground covers are all ways to reduce disease pressure while keeping soil alive. Approaches that align with modern linput viticulture. When manuals warn against forcing a uniform layout across hillsides and flats, they're articulating site-specific management, the core of sustainable agriculture today. Manure cycles close the loop between livestock and crops. Cattle, sheep, and poultry weren't just outputs. They powered soil fertility through bedding and dung that returned nutrients to fields via compost heaps and muck spreading. Current regenerative systems do the same with managed grazing, barn bedding, composts, and targeted returns to cropped land. Villa rustica agriculture made these choices scalable. Large estates integrated arable, orchards, vines, and stock so that labor, water, and waste moved around a campus. Archaeobotany shows intensive cereal production systems with weed, floras, and isotopes, indicating sustained manuring and careful husbandry. That's the ancient version of whole farm nutrient budgeting. Where did ancient advice oversell? What do we keep? Some prescriptions reflect elite ideals more than everyday practice, and not every region grew the same cover crops or could spare long fallows. But the durable core survives scrutiny: compost and manures to feed soil organisms, legumes as green manures, rotations that mix cereals and pulses, mineral amendments where chemistry demands, irrigation and canopy tuned to site, and hygiene and timing as the first lines of crop protection. Modern science doesn't just tolerate those moves, it measures their upside. Cover crop reviews quantify nitrogen inputs, water capture, and weed suppression. Compost handbooks standardize recipes and maturity tests. Soil chemistry explains why marl or lime shifts pH and unlocks nutrients. Isotopes track long-term manuring across landscapes. If your goal is sustainable agriculture, the Roman package reads like a blueprint you can port, build organic matter, rotate for biology, time water, and let livestock close loops. So here's a field checklist you can film and reuse. Soil food web first. Compost or manure, applied mature, not raw. Green manure, a legume cover turned in before seed set to feed the next crop. Rotation map, alternate cereals and pulses. Plan fallow on the driest blocks. Chemistry check. Marl or other alkaline amendments only where pH and soil type call for it. Water plan, irrigate by stage and texture. Mind infiltration, not just volume, residue hygiene, compost or remove disease-heavy trash. Don't reincorporate problems. Habitat and timing, hedges, airflow, row spacing, and sowing dates tuned to dodge pests rather than fight them later. If your viewers ask how Romans farmed without pesticides, that's the answer lies in the system, so most fights never start. The bottom line is simple. Roman farming methods prioritized soil health and system design. Modern research gives the mechanisms and the metrics. Feed the soil and it feeds the crop. Rotate and you reset biology. Use water and amendments with purpose. Keep animals in the loop and your field stays productive without leaning on quick fixes. That's as sustainable agriculture in any century, and it's why ancient practice and modern science keep meeting in the same place.